Hello, and welcome to Know Before You Go, a program of the Dominican Central Province of St. Albert the Great that allows us to take a look ahead at the upcoming weekend's readings. I am Father Jim Marchionda, coming to you from St. Pius Priory in Chicago, and I am happy to be with you as we approach the 17th Sunday in Ordinary Time. The three readings for this Sunday are from the first book of Kings, from St. Paul's letter to the Romans, and from the Gospel of St. Matthew. And if we go directly to the second reading from the letter to the Romans, it's very brief, as was last weekend's. And we hear Paul saying, all things work together for good for those who love God and work for God's purpose. Listen to that again. All things work for good for those who love God and work for God's purpose. And then he reminds the Romans, and he reminds us through them, for you have been conformed to the image of Christ. What we receive in that letter to the Romans is this teaching that all things will work out when we are one with God, when we are connected with God, and when God's purpose becomes our purpose. It doesn't say our troubles are going to be wiped away, that they're going to be gone, that we're no longer going to suffer. But it gives us a foundation to trust, saying that when we are one with God, even when we suffer, we trust that things are going to be okay. When God is our foundation, and when God is our identity, and when God's purpose is our purpose, even if we have to suffer, it will be okay. So we get that charge from St. Paul today. And then we get examples of how to maintain that foundation and to build on that foundation from the first reading, from the first letter of Kings, and from the gospel reading of St. Matthew. In 1 Kings, we hear the story of Solomon, young King Solomon, who is so green, who is so raw, who is so too young to be king, and who in a dream is visited by God, who says to him in his dream, ask something of me. Go ahead. Ask anything you want of me. And Solomon, in his dream, responds to God, saying, I'm so young. I'm so inexperienced to be the leader of such a vast people. Because I am young, because I don't know what I'm doing. He says, God, I ask you for an understanding heart. Isn't that beautiful? He asks for an understanding heart, that he might be able to judge and distinguish right from wrong. In the dream, God is delighted with his request. Delighted. And he says, because you didn't ask for yourself, because you weren't consumed with what you need, with what you want, with what you hope for, but because you asked for an understanding heart, I will make you the wisest human being the world has ever seen, and there will be none like you again after you. I will definitely grant you the wisdom of heart, that you might learn to judge and distinguish right from wrong. That first reading, my friends, gives us an example of what we should be working toward as well, especially when we think of Romans and having the same purpose as God. To pray for having a wisdom of heart that allows us to know right from wrong, to hope for it, to pray for it, to work for it, and to live it with all our lives. The gospel from St. Matthew is about the hidden treasure. The story of a man who finds a hidden treasure in a field, and he's so excited by the treasure. He goes and he sells everything he has and buys the field so that the treasure will be his forever. Then it has a second part of the parable about the person who finds a pearl of great cost, goes and sells everything he owns so that he can buy the pearl. What Matthew is telling us in this gospel is that God is our treasure. God is our pearl. And that of all the concerns and things in life that we have, we should realize that the treasure we have in God is the foundation of our entire lives. And it is that treasure that we should promote. It is that treasure that we should carry. It is that treasure that we should keep using to judge everything else that consumes us in life. To stay balanced, to stay on top of our game, to stay positioned in the right direction, a direction toward God, and as Paul says to the Romans, toward God's purpose. That's our treasure. God's purpose is our treasure. And with Solomon, may you and I pray for the wisdom of heart to be able to see that treasure every day of our lives and to embrace it with everything that we have, all of our hearts, and to give ourselves to the treasure. That one day we actually will become more fully one with the treasure, one with God. God bless you.